What if I told you that some of your biggest quirks, the things you might even be a little self-conscious about, are actually signs of a super sharp mind? Yeah, today we're throwing out the old playbook. We're not talking about test scores or grades. Instead, we're going to dive into these fascinating, subtle habits, these psychological patterns that researchers are finding are the real deal when it comes to high intelligence.
So, let me ask you this straight up. All those things that might make you feel a bit different. The constant overthinking, being the quiet one in a crowd, or even just loving your alone time. What if those aren't weaknesses? What if they're actually your hidden superpowers? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
Okay, so check this out. For forever, we've all been taught to think about intelligence in one way, the traditional view you see on the left. It's all about grades, test scores, right? But the real magic, and what we're focusing on today, is on the right, this psychological view. This is where things get interesting because we're looking at how a smart brain actually works day to day, the habits, the patterns, the stuff that really counts.
All right, let's get right into our first sign. And this is a big one. It's something a lot of us probably see as a negative, maybe even a source of anxiety. We're talking about the overthinking analyst.
Does this sound like you? Your brain is just always on, right? Analyzing every conversation, every decision, from every possible angle. It's so easy to just label that as anxiety, but the research points to something way deeper. It's the mark of a mind that's just not satisfied with the easy, surface-level answer. And get this, there is actually a name for this. Psychologists call this productive type of overthinking cognitive reflection. Think of it like having a built-in pause button for your brain. Instead of just going with your gut reaction, you stop, you question it, and you choose to think more deeply. It's not just reacting. It's a much more complex, deliberate process.
And this really hits the nail on the head. See, anyone can react. That's easy. But to reflect, that's a skill. It means your mind is busy doing the hard work of complex problem solving. You're not just looking for the obvious answer, you're looking for the best one. Okay, moving on. It turns out that a sharp mind doesn't just think differently, it actually sees the world differently. This next part is all about being a curious observer and how you process everything coming at you. So, be honest. Are you that person who goes down a 2-hour internet rabbit hole on, how Roman aqueducts work, just because you saw something that piqued your interest? That constant, relentless need to ask why? Well, that's not you getting distracted. That's your brain telling you it's hungry for knowledge.
This lines up perfectly with a major personality trait called openness to experience. And what's so cool is that researchers at the University of London found a real solid link between people who are high in this trait and people with higher IQs. So that curiosity of yours, it's not just a quirk. It's a pretty strong clue about your intellectual horsepower.
Okay, here's another one. Picture the last time you were in a group, a meeting, a party, whatever. Were you the one driving the conversation? Or were you the quiet one, kind of hanging back, just watching? The thing is, this isn't necessarily about being shy. It's often a strategic choice. You're in data collection mode.
And this skill is so powerful, it has its own name, active observation. And it's just what it sounds like. While everyone else is talking, you're processing. You're noticing all the subtle stuff that just flies over most people's heads. The hidden dynamics, the unspoken rules. It's a mix of raw intellect and serious emotional intelligence.
So what exactly is your brain working on in those moments? Well, it's like you're tuned into a whole different frequency. You're catching the tone of voice that doesn't quite match the words. You're feeling the emotional vibe in the room. You're spotting the holes in someone's argument. And maybe most important of all, you're hearing what isn't being said. All right, for this last section, we're going to turn the focus inward. We're looking at a couple of signs that have to do with your inner world, how you see yourself, and how you connect with other people. These are two big ones that are so often misunderstood.
Okay, this next one is going to sound like a total contradiction. I know. Self-doubt as a sign of intelligence. How does that even work? Well, it all comes down to the kind of doubt we're talking about. This isn't about not being confident. It's about being aware.
See, that little bit of self-doubt is actually the bedrock of something incredibly powerful called intellectual humility. It's that simple but profound awareness that you don't have all the answers. And that is the secret sauce. That's what keeps a sharp mind open, flexible, and always ready to learn. And this comparison makes it so clear. On one side, you've got the Dunning-Kruger effect. You've probably heard of it. It's when someone doesn't know enough to even realize how little they know. While intellectual humility is the complete opposite. It's the sign of a mind that's smart enough to recognize its own blind spots.
And for our last sign, this is for anyone who's ever been called antisocial or a loner. We're talking about genuinely enjoying your own company, not just putting up with it, but actually thriving when you're by yourself.
And his quote from a study in the British Journal of Psychology just nails it. The reason is simple. For a brain that's wired for deep thought, a lot of socializing can just feel like static. Being alone isn't about being lonely. It's about giving your brain the space it needs for big ideas to really cook. You recharge with deep thought, not with small talk.
Okay, so we've looked at 5 really different signs, but the thing is they're not separate quirks. Let's put it all together and see how they create a kind of signature for how your brain works.
So let's just run through them one more time. We have that productive overthinking, the insatiable curiosity, quiet observation, healthy self-doubt, and valuing your alone time. But here's the key takeaway. They all feed each other, right? Your self-doubt leads to humility, which makes you a better observer. Your curiosity fuels your deep thinking, and you need that alone time to process everything you're observing and thinking about. It's all part of one big, interconnected system.
And that really brings us to the main point of all this. If you've been nodding along, recognizing yourself in these descriptions, you're not weird. You're not awkward. You might just be wired for deeper thinking. Your brain is literally built to process the world in a more complex, analytical way.
So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. Now that you know these aren't just quirks, but signs of a really powerful mind, how does that change the way you think about yourself? Pretty interesting stuff to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this one.